Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Mike Wilson, who's the founder of Blueprint Retirement Advisors, and we'll be talking about the problem for small business owners with a 401k plan. Mike, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this because, I think a lot of business owners that have their qualified plan or they're taking care of the employees with the 401k, it's like, okay, good, I'm taking care of them. Ooh, wait a minute, you said there's a problem? So let's jump right into that, because I know from our time last time, we have been laying the groundwork of how you work with and serve and give value to your client. So what's the problem with the 401k plan?
So the problem with the 401k plan is that, first and foremost, for a small business owner to start one, most of them are put in the position of being a fiduciary.
Oh.
And they didn't wake up in the morning saying, I want to be a fiduciary. They woke up in the morning trying to make their business work and chose a 401k type plan for the benefit of their employees, for employee retention, all those good things, all the right reasons for themselves to save for retirement. And they picked a vendor, and that vendor said, "Yeah, we'll help you. We'll be your co-fiduciary. In fact, we'll take care of things." The problem is that the co-fiduciary role leaves them exposed, and it leaves them exposed on a personal level.
Yeah.
So when a small business owner sponsors a plan and they accept that role as fiduciary, and no one really explains it to them very, very deeply, they are most likely exposing all of their own personal assets, savings, retirement, home, all of that, to investment-related decisions in the plan.
Even if they're an LLC?
Correct.
Wow. So that almost like penetrates because you're told by, like CPAs or whatever, LLC will protect your personal assets. So, that's one of the good things for that. But you're saying now, if you've got a 401k, then now the fiduciary could be triggered, which then penetrates through that to make you liable for some things that could go wrong.
Correct. And your homeowners or personal umbrella policy does not protect you that front. Your business policy does not protect you on that front. Now, again, they're going to use a vendor. Let's just use a generic acronym for a large national paycheck type oriented payroll company. And they'll say, well, we're going to administer for you. We'll be your co-fiduciaries. The problem with that scenario is that the roles are separated. The payroll provider or the 401k provider assumes certain roles, but they do not assume the role of the investment fiduciary. Most of the time. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't. And that leaves the sponsor on the hook.
The owner, the business owner. And they might go, fiduciary, smiduciary, what the heck does that mean? And then maybe they would go, oh, well, it just means you need to do things for the best interest of your employees. And like, okay, always I do that. But in reality, how deep does the term fiduciary, really make? Let's talk about that, because I think that in the general sense, fiduciary would mean, you need to do things that are always in the best interest of. And I think that it goes way deeper than that.
Well, yeah. So that's definitely the definition of fiduciary, to do things in the best interest of the person who's depending on you. But how can someone who is not steeped in investment science understand the rationale and the reasoning for building a portfolio the way it's been built? And a lot of the times, when you have to answer questions like that, it's too late. You're already sitting in a room with an attorney and a deposition's going on, and you're answering questions not from your employees, but from the government attorneys who are asking you questions about why certain decisions were made. And the answer, well, I relied on my payroll provider, or I relied on my 401k plan provider, doesn't cut it, because the law says you're the fiduciary.
Wow.
Now, even more tragically, and I see this in a lot of businesses that I look at, the office manager is listed on the plan as the plan fiduciary. And that poor person, who certainly has no real discretionary authority over the business, could be exposed.
They're ordering office supplies and making sure people's vacation times are counted on the, wow.
Yeah, they don't deserve that.
So what's a scenario? Like I'm envisioning like, here's this 401k. We're going to allocate 10% to this kind of fund, 20% to this. And so it's this stock template, here it is. And the owner's going, okay, yeah, whatever. That sounds good. But in reality, someone could come in and go, well, this didn't perform this way, so I'm not happy. And then they start coming after you. But what's a scenario where the fiduciary concept would get breached and broke?
Triggered. Yeah. So there's a couple of different things. Probably the biggest one, the most common one, is fees. Fees can add up inside a 401k plan, and surprise, surprise, the industry is notorious for not being transparent in the 401k fees. It's amazingly hard for a small business owner to get their hands on the full fee schedule, which is tragic. So not being aware of the fees and the fees being too high is certainly a large trigger. Another trigger is if the investments aren't broad enough, if they're not well diversified enough, or not enough options in the plan. Another red flag for anybody looking at a 401k plan is if there's a lot of company stock in the plan. Whereas a company might say, hey, if you believe in the company, you're going to buy the stock, and et cetera. Yeah. And that might be true, but as a 401k option, that raises red flags for anybody.
Because that's in the benefit of the business owner more so than the employee. The case could be made for that.
Yeah. So, it doesn't mean you wouldn't want your own stock in the plan, but you'd want to darn well make sure that there was enough diversification around it to keep you from having problems in that area.
And you might think, like, for instance, the owner might go, oh, look, you put this in front of me for options for the 401k, and there's all kinds of, there's multiple, however many that might be, but multiple options. That looks good to me, but maybe that multiple wasn't multiple enough. How broad, how many options should there be so that you're really giving your employees, the best, treatment?
Yeah. A reasonable lineup would be, 20, 25, maybe 30 different funds. Again, that's a reasonable, there's all sorts of funds out there. Vanguard has a great lineup that tends to be in 401k plans. Some plans are with American funds. And so there's a lot of different American funds. You think, wow, those are broad. The problem is a lot of them overlap, and a lot of those types of funds, and I'm not picking on American funds, just the first one that came to mind, but a lot of them have very high fees. And so diversification is one thing, but high fees are another, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of little duties that, you assume that, hey, we're a small company. Everybody here is family. Everything gets along. But man, have you ever seen a dysfunctional family? Sometimes things go south, and when they go south, they're not going to rely on, he was a good guy most of the time. And I guess, it's one thing to point out the problem, but it's another thing to say, hey, you have this problem, but you don't have to. There's a different way to do it. The ability to offload that fiduciary duty exists. Most small plan sponsors don't know about it. Most of the providers that are out there offering plans don't really talk about it. They don't really push it. And yet, what I've seen when I've competed in looking at plans, that very often we can reduce the total cost and still include the ability for that person to offload their fiduciary responsibility. So
it kind of made me think when you were describing the breadth of options and then the fees. It made me think of that game that my kids played when they were little, whack-a-mole. It's like, oh, there's a mole, whack it, and then another one pops up, and so let me fix the breadth, the how many options I can give the employees. Good, I got that. But then you didn't realize that now maybe some of them, or that plan doesn't have the best fee structure. Oh, let me fix that, and then something else pops up. It's like, how do you know?
Yeah. So, and as a plan sponsor, sponsors need to understand that they definitely are a fiduciary. They are required by law to understand all of the plan fees. That's really important. Most of them don't understand it. They are required to benchmark their plan against the industry and against other similar plans. It's widely known that up to 75% of all small plans never get a benchmark. Never. And yet it's part of their fiduciary duties to do that. They have to maintain an investment policy statement. I guarantee you walk into 9 out of 10, probably 90 out of 100 businesses and say, ask the person in charge of the 401k to show me your investment policy statement. They won't know where it is, and if they even have one. They're also supposed to maintain an investment committee that meets regularly.
Ooh.
Like, oh my goodness. So there's so many things, there's so many
Yeah.
pieces of this that they could be exposed to. And the beauty of it is they don't need to. They can, one of the 7 simple truths that I talk about is that they can delegate that fiduciary responsibility to a certain party. There's 3 different kinds of parties that can do it, but an investment manager is one of them. And you can sign away that. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have to pay attention to things in the plan. It just means that the part of the plan that requires the most education, that is the investment science, is no longer on your shoulders. So if you run a car dealership or whatever,
if you ever get called from the powers that be, you can just kind of point the finger over at that entity and go talk to them, because I understood the basics that they explained to me, but you need to. And then I think that that's a neat feeling, because the business owner needs to understand conceptually about the plan of the 401k, but they don't need to be in the weeds like you're describing. And it makes me think about this. Even if they were totally up to date and up to speed on all this day one, I'll bet you that some things can change over the months and quarters and years that the business owner doesn't keep up on. And now all of a sudden you're behind the 8 ball because you understood it day one, but now you don't, stay up to date on those changes.
And here's a dirty little secret about the mutual fund industry. It's not really a dirty little secret. It's just obvious. Funds change. They change in their goals and their management and their investment objectives and all that. 401k planning for a small business. And again, when I say small, I'm not talking about the corner donut shop. I'm talking about, some larger businesses with lots and lots of revenue. They are exposed so often that they need help. They can't do it on your own. A DIY can't be done in this environment, and certainly not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just can't be done. Now, it's interesting, and I failed to say this earlier. According to ERISA, the person who is the fiduciary is considered by law to be the prudent investment expert.
Ooh.
And so I have a little piece that I give out sometimes, and I ask them, are you willing, as the prudent investment expert, to defend your investment decisions in court?
Oh,
no.
And they're like, I can't. Are you kidding me? No.
I want to run a plumbing contracting business. I want to do that.
Yeah.
So again, the short message here is that they don't have to do that, but they are so consumed with all of the things that they have to do in their business that taking time to look at and consider an option of a different kind of plan seems daunting or unnecessary to them. It becomes a chore, and boy, oh boy, it shouldn't be. Because let's face it, if they spent an hour gathering some documents to let someone do an analysis, at the very worst, they would find out that their plan was perfect and that everything they were doing was correct.
Yeah,
which is part of their fiduciary responsibility.
Yeah,
you have to do that anyway. That's what a benchmark is. But if it found that, wow, I could offload liability and maybe improve the investment choices and costs to my employees, and maybe save some money on the process, those improvements, those are the icing and the sprinkles on the cupcake. The cupcake is my home's not exposed.
Right. Oh my word. I mean that for, in my mind, that is one of the huge benefits of setting up your company a certain way so that you're personally protected. So if now you think of like the military or the police TV shows where it's like you hear about armor piercing ammo. Well, now here's this thing, this 401k plan that fiduciary could pierce through your setup and cause you personally trouble. I think that's a huge aha. I had no clue that is out there. And so obviously the alternative is to have someone you could offload it to, but not just some dude, like a company like yourself that can come in and go, look, here's our background. Here's our, way that we handle this. Here's all the broad choices. We will make sure you understand what's going on. So talk a little bit about that solution.
Well, so and in this case, it's not even me as the advisor that would take that role. We would have the company that administers the plan take that role. So they're not just administering 1 or 10 or 50 plans; they're administering thousands of plans with thousands of employees, and the expertise at that point is unquestionable.
Yes, because they're the ones putting it together. Of course, they would know and have all of the benchmarking and all of those things.
Yeah, I mean, God knows I'm a good guy. I work hard. I try to take care of my clients. But if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, I wouldn't want that sponsor to be back in that position.
Yeah.
So we're putting them in a position to work with a company that knows the industry so well and just absolutely refuses to let people get into a position where they'd be exposed.
And then like someone like yourself would be the liaison between that fund company and the business owner to kind of help do some guiding in their setup, right?
Exactly. I think, the value add that I bring to the table in a situation like that is a lot of 401k advisors don't want to talk to individual participants.
Yeah.
And because of that, the individual participants who the plan is supposed to be benefiting don't really get any advice. There are investment companies out there that will charge you a fee and manage your 401k for you inside your company's plan. But boy, it's just diluting your returns even further.
Yeah, that's another fee.
Yeah, it's just another fee. So, and they're busy. I get marketing material from them all the time. They're busy and they're nice people, but oh my goodness, I just don't understand that when, my 401k clients, their employees can ask me questions.
Well, and the other thing is, you would have more of a personal touch, building a relationship kind of approach than like, let's call 1-800 whoever, and then you're just like getting, okay, I'm getting in line, I'm waiting, you're the next step in line, and then you ask your question. Well, here now is Mike going, I know you guys. I know your company. I know the owner, and you guys are accomplishing this, and and I think that's a big thing, is like building that rapport and relationship personally, right?
It's huge. And, the largest, there's two very, very large national payroll companies, and they tend to dominate the 401k market for small businesses. Everyone who uses those services know that their payroll reps change constantly.
Yeah.
And in that industry, so do the 401k. So does the 401k rep, changes constantly. They are not as accessible. Their personal attentiveness and their personal service is not as strong as it could be. And I'm sure there are people out there that are doing an excellent job, but it makes it very challenging for that employee who, gets 45 minutes in lunch and then has to go home and take care of the kids and the family and the yard and the dog and all that stuff to get any real attention. It's going to make it very hard for them. So I think what I bring to the table is a very big company solution in terms of the platform and the offerings, as well as a personal hand-holding almost approach to getting advice out there to the people who really need it. And the sponsors generally are the ones that have the most money in the plan. They need advice too. They need help in that arena too. I just think small business owners take a tremendous amount of risk to make their business happen, but they take a risk that they know that there's going to be a return for.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you build that business based on the idea that there's going to be a positive return. I have yet to think of a way to quantify a positive return for assuming the role of a financial expert when you're not one.
Yeah. And if you can offload that risk to the people that really know their stuff and have the tools to benchmark this and have all these things that you're talking about, and then take my neck off the chopping block and have a personal, a contact with someone like yourself to guide the process to go, ooh, what if this and what if that? That's huge. So I would just say this, Mike, that I know I've been enjoying this conversation because it's like, I've never heard that before. And I do a lot in entrepreneurs and small business. I never thought of that, heard of that. So if someone is listening to this going, you know what? Can you give me that, just a little overview, second look? Tell me where we're at. They'll either get the check the box mentally and go, good, we're good to go. Or maybe they can work with you and you can really take some of that pressure off of them. What's the best way someone could reach out and connect with you and learn more?
Yeah. So my website, thank you. My website is www.blueprintra.com. That stands for Blueprint Retirement Advisors. My email is mike@blueprintra.com. And the best number to reach me is 682-324-2583.
Awesome. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on today. This was super good, and I appreciate your insights.
I really appreciate the chance to share this information, Mike. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.